Hey guys, welcome to episode 39, Reconstructing Cave Story. This episode we're going to be looking at our damage text again. We're going to be giving our damage text to our bat so that we can know how much damage we've done to the bat. We aren't going to kill the bat in this episode, that's the next episode. But we'll see a problem right away, and that's our damage text needs to add damage. But let's start out by just giving it to our first cave bat and seeing what happens. So I'll go into first cave bat, include damage text, and give him a, or her, could be a her, damage text. And then when we do take damage, we'll just set damage, we'll do damage text dot set damage. So let's see, text dot set damage to be damage. We won't do anything else with that yet. But yeah, let's see how this looks. Let's see. We actually also need to draw our damage text and update it. So let's do that too. That was kind of funny in a not funny way. We're just going to draw it in here for now. It's not going to stay here because this will get drawn behind the player, which won't look right. But for this episode, we're not going to work on that. So I'll do damage text dot draw, giving it graphics, center X, we'll just do center X, and center Y. I don't think I've defined these yet, but they're easy enough to define. No, I have not. I do have this center Y, which is a different center Y. So I think I'll go ahead and rename this from center Y to flight center Y. Sorry if that's confusing. It's the center of the flight path. But I want the actual bat center X and center Y. And I'm going to make these private. They don't need to be public. Void. Nope. Units of game. Center X. Const returning X plus. That's right. We do have an X. X plus units K half tile. And the same thing for Y. And this should be happy. I think it is. So I'll build. And then also update our damage text. Oh, it's not happy because this draw is still const. So let's get rid of this const and this draw because our damage text draw is not const, so we can't do that. Okay. For reals, now let's update damage text. Giving it elapsed time so that it can move upwards. Anyway, let's build it and run it now, and this time it'll work more or less. So let's see how this looks. So it goes with the bat and it follows him and it looks good. And if I just did this, you would think it was working. But if I do this, you'll see why it's not working. It's because this number should be growing. While it still exists, this number should grow instead of just recreating a new -1. So let's implement that. So let's check out some of the details I've discovered from the game. So the first hit, which is what we're doing now, it reads -1, and then it should start floating upwards, and it's doing that, great. But on subsequent hits, like the second and third hit, the damage check should actually change. So on the second hit, it should be -2, and on the third hit, it should be -3. And then another thing it does is it stops floating upwards. And then it still disappears after 2 seconds after the last hit. So it doesn't, every time you hit it, it pushes back that timer. So that's what we need to, those are the changes we need to make to our damage text in order to get it to look right. So let's make those changes. I'll open up damage text.h and damage text.cc. And let's start by looking at our damage text.h. Actually, let's start in our damage text.cc and look at our set damage. So the first change, the biggest change we're going to make is instead of setting damage equal to this new damage that we're taking in, we're going to add to it. Okay, so that's one thing out of the way. That's easy. Damage text decreases, but remember damage is positive, so damage should really be increasing. Whatever. The other thing is it should stop floating upwards. So to do this, I'm going to add a boolean should rise. Bool should rise. So we can keep track of whether or not we should be rising. Let's default it. It doesn't really matter what we default it to, so I'll just default it to true, assuming we should rise. So we should really only be rising if our damage is, let's say, already set to 0. And we're creating a whole new damage, so that's when we should set should rise to be true. Then we should only also be resetting our offset if should rise is true, or our damage is equal to 0 in this case, which are two equivalent statements, but yeah, so the other thing we'll need to worry about is resetting our damage back to 0, and then also making sure we only update the offset if we're rising. So let's start with the only updating the offset if we're rising. That's easy. If should rise, then we update the offset, and I'm down here in our update method. Okay, so now we need to reset our damage once the timer has expired. So oh, and one other note, this timer.reset is perfect. So every time we take damage, we'll reset our timer, which is exactly what we want. So that's another perfect thing already. So if the timer's expired, we just want to reset our damage to be equal to 0. We don't need to reset our offset because that happens in set damage. And we also don't need to reset should rise because that again happens in set damage. So we just need to reset our damage equal to 0. So I'm going to build and run, and I believe this is all the logic that we need to complete this episode. So bring this guy over. So as we can see, it stops rising, and let's make sure that the damage gets reset, and should rise gets reset, and offset Y gets reset. And it's a lot to remember, but it makes for a very beautiful looking game, and it's worth it. Trust me, it's worth it. This is so satisfying. Okay, sweet. So our bat obviously only goes up, well, I guess for those of you who haven't played, it's not obvious, but our bat really only has 1 damage. So in the next episode, we're going to be working out a tricky problem, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit now because it's kind of a tricky problem, but it's the fact that our damage text, like our bat will die, but our damage text will live beyond the lifetime of the bat. So we'll need to work out another way of storing the damage text so that it can outlive the bat. Because right now, if we kill the bat, the damage text will, right now it's being drawn by the bat itself. So if we kill the bat and the bat no longer exists, it can't draw the damage text. And the other problem we'll need to be solving is like I can jump in front of this damage text right now, so we need to draw it in a different order. So those are the next couple of problems we're going to be looking at in the next episode. It's going to be a lot of fun, just a lot of fun. So I really invite your friends, get some popcorn, grab a few beers, and just come watch. You know, it'll be good times all around. So thanks for watching, and happy developing.